Yeah, it's your boy Hakeem Green, channel live and direct, BDP all day, every day. All we do is spark mad ism. Speaking of the ism, yeah, you know what it is. I like to put things in the air when I'm having important conversations. And tonight's conversation is an extremely important one with somebody who I have a tremendous amount of respect for, somebody who's putting it down in the activist world, using hip hop as a vehicle to get messages across, organizing folks, and that is no other than my brother, MYSONNE. So I want to bring MYSONNE in right fast. Let's bring the brother in. Peace to the God, peace to the G-O-D.
Peace, King. How you doing today?
I'm doing excellent. Everything is well. So you on the Madism TV platform, and Madism is definitely about that weed. I'm about that weed, about cannabis, hemp, and all that. Yes, but the ism part of it helps us to go into all the different isms that affect our lives: racism, sexism, capitalism, communism, socialism, lyricism, activism, so forth and so on. So we want to be touching on a variety of those different isms throughout our conversation. But before we get started, what I'd like to do is just play a video, which helps us then invite folks to the building, make sure we have a nice solid audience, and we set the tone. So with that said, I want to play a video right fast, and then you can share on your side. I'll be sharing on my side. Everybody in the building that's watching so far, share on their side. What's up, Kiki D? I see you. Thanks for tuning in, and we're gonna get it started.
Okay.
The political world has been buzzing about.
Speaking to a mostly white crowd in Michigan Friday, Trump urged African Americans,
"Why do you have to lose? You're living in poverty. Your schools are no good. You have no jobs. 58% of your youth is unemployed."
I moved on her like a bitch. You can do anything.
Whatever you want.
Grab him by the I can do anything.
You roll like Trump, you get your beat lump. DJ Hello, don't Trump. You roll like Trump, you get your beat lump. Yeah, don't Trump. You roll like Trump, you get your beat lump. Don't Trump. You roll like Trump, you get your beat lump. Don't Trump.
The Nazis didn't lose, they adapted. Plus Hitler was financed by American capitalists, anti-Semites and white nationalists. Hire Steve Bannon as the campaign strategist. Identify the activists, label them extreme. Tell them Rosa hit the road, get that bed winch off the team. It's about the green and giving it to the rich. Robert Mueller puts the pressure, trying to find a snitch. It's like Rockefellers, turn Carter's page. Back to the Nixon era, Watergate. Now we in like Flynn, hold down the Manafort. He tried to ban Muslims, thank God for higher courts. Dude is just evil, taxes unbelievable, and we never got to see is like them shits is unretrievable. Is it even feasible when everything is just for views? He can release his own taxes, then tweet his fake news. His name is Donald, and Fred ain't raised no wussy. He ain't no Billy D, so he just grabs him by the push. As for allegation, there's 16 open cases. Since before Central Park 5, we knew he was racist and sexist. The clown is reckless, the fool is at the button playing with a death wish. What are we left with? A wall or a fence? A lot of pride before the fall, hope we don't get stuck with Mike Pence. My name ain't Paul, that is up to y'all. I'm on live for Black Panther, reading the final call.
You roll like Trump, you get your beat lump.
Don't Trump.
You roll like Trump, you get your beat lump.
Don't Trump.
That's right. You roll like Trump, you get your beat lump.
Don't Trump.
You roll like Trump, you get your beat lump.
Yeah,
Don't Trump.
Trump is a disgrace. I mean, how many lies is gonna take? How much time's he gonna make? False statements from each side, we gon' place his behind bars for buying the whole race, and y'all just gon' waste taxpayers' money.
For real?
Why he tweeting and beefing with other countries? We still hungry, schools getting shut up. He too weak to do anything about it. He truly has divided the whole nation. Blacks either in jail or probation. We all facing the worst administration.
That's right.
Where they sin condone discrimination. We all getting impatient. Trump gotta go. So let's impeach him or vote him out the door. One thing's for sure, if you voted for Trump, then you deserve to get your meat lump.
You roll like Trump, you get your beat lump.
Don't Trump.
You roll like Trump, you get your beat lump.
Don't Trump.
You roll like
Trump. 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 Trump.
Dump Trump.
Dump Trump.
Yes, sir. That's Dump Trump by myself, Hakeem Green, featuring the God MYSONNE, produced by DJ Heron, and a video directed by Benny Boone. So, that's a very important piece that we immediately laid down when the clown got in the building. That's hip hop using speaking truth to power. So I
That's right.
appreciate you for joining that effort.
Thanks for having me.
Yes, sir. So, I want to get into MYSONNE's history, like, in terms of, exactly where you from, how'd you get involved in hip hop culture, rap music specifically, like I want your specific journey as an MC.
First of all, thanks for having me, my brother. It's always a pleasure to, be able to converse and build with you. I was born and raised in the Bronx, and I started my journey into hip hop in junior high school. I was one of those young boys. I had one of what I felt to be one of the greatest underground kings in the world on my block. His name was June Brown, R.I.P. He was one of these people that rapped all day, and he lived on the ground floor below me, and he had books of rhymes. He would just call me downstairs and just rap to me all day. He was so good, it just made me feel like, let me try, and then I'll go upstairs and write my little rhymes, but I would never let nobody hear him. And then on one day I let him hear me. He was like, yo, you actually kind of good. And I remember, I think I was in ninth grade. I let my friend Lacey down the block hear me. He was like, yo, we need to start a group. And we started going to the studio in the building. He made my man Dex was like one of the OGs in the hood. He had built the studio, and he let us go in there, and we were recording there. And that's where my journey began. And from there, just continuously making music, battling, back then in the early 90s, early 90s, mid 90s, people used to go to battle, used to go to different hoods and just battle, or we would be in the locker room or in the gym. And I used to go to Martin Luther King High School, and I remember Mace came there one time in 93. And we was just in the bathroom in the gym just rapping for about hours, and that was the first time I met him. And then we would just continue to do it, man. One of my friends, Doc, who was also he was one of the managers of our basketball team. He used to be like, yo, every time somebody would come, he would say, rap. He used to put me on the spot, man. So he was one of the first people that made me believe I was good. And then, the journey continued on until ultimately I met the brother Chris Lighty in 1998. And, from there, I got signed to Violated Def Jam in 1998. And then, unfortunately, I got incarcerated less than a year later. And that's pretty much the beginning journey. And then, just until now.
Okay, so you're coming up in the culture, like late 80s, early 90s, pretty much, right? Mm-hmm. So, in terms of when we say hip hop culture, I have this thing where people usually talk about rap music. They're not talking about hip hop culture, right? Mm-hmm. And I also know by the late 80s, in terms of the breakdance and graffiti, that wasn't really a strong element in the commercial push of hip hop culture, right? So what was the tone coming up in the Bronx, late 80s, early 90s, in terms of what's influencing your rhymes? What do you see? What are you attracted to? What's the tone of your context in your rhymes?
The tone was influenced around, it was a lot of ciphers. It was I'm in the Bronx, major things that we used to do was Harlem Week, Skate Key, sports was a big influence. I was always a KRS fan. I was a Rakim fan, Big Daddy Kane, EPMD was the first album I ever got, so I was always influenced by just listening. Like Video Music Box was a big influence of mine. So I used to watch Video Music Box all the time and just want to be a part of that. Yo MTV Raps, you know, those things pretty much influenced the culture. Nas, I was a big Nas fan, you know, so I was influenced by that. And then being in the streets, you know, in the culture and just being around a lot of different type of individuals that was really in the streets, all of those things influence my lyrics and, you know, the content of my music.
So there was way more of a balance to things, you know, just in terms of MCs coming up in the game at that time. You know, even though a style might be a one particular style, you know, there's a balance. You getting fed from a lot of different perspectives, the Rakims, the Eric B's, the KRS ones, you know what I'm saying? And of course the Cool G Raps and then Nas, of course, all of that was just in a pot. And it's just, the reason why I bring that up is because, you know, that balance and that variety is missing so much. Or excuse me, it's not missing. We're just not shining the light on it, which is
exactly
the real issue. So that's why I'm asking in terms of you as an MC, you know, because you know I caught wind of you like late 90s, and late 90s, early 2Gs, and when you got arrested, I was aware of, you know, what was going on. But your reputation just as a MC, like, you was the next dude, like you was the one everybody was like, this motherfucker is gonna be a problem. And you know, for you to come out and to hear your content, God, it's so powerful because you're able to deliver messages that when a lot of other people deliver it, it's over people's head, and you're able to put it in a way that they can readily understand. And I would assume that's because of your experience in the street and seeing that culture as well. So if you can elaborate on that.
Yeah, I think that's mainly what it is. I think I always wanted to be that person, right? When I was young, 13 and 14, there was a lot of, like, I used to build like the guards, you know, you walk around and you see the guards building in the ciphers, and you know, and I was always inquisitive and I paid attention. A lot of it went over my head though, right? And then I would have to go back and study and learn things and try to figure out stuff. But I used to always say, this knowledge that they're giving is so good. If it was just more simplistic, that people can just get it, you know, if it would make, because a lot of the youth, when it was, you know, it was trendy at the time, so there was a lot of trend, but there was a lot of people that were just into the street, and I was like, dang, these street dudes still need to get this message. Like, we still need to be able to understand what's going on. Like, we need to understand we the true and living. We need to understand mathematics, all these things we need to be able to understand. So I want to be able to transfer messages to those who don't get it, you know, those who still need to hear it and really would be involved if they understood. So that was one of the key things I did. And I just never wanted to go over somebody's head to the point where they weren't getting messages. So that was one of the things I always wanted to do with my music. I didn't want to make it too complicated. I know it's a lot of, and I liked a lot of complicated artists, but I noticed that a lot of my friends like, you know, I don't even know what he's saying. He's saying too much stuff. And I didn't want that. I'm like, Dad, he's saying too much stuff for you not to be able to get this. Like, he's too dope an artist for you to be like, what is he talking about? No, he's saying some issue. You just not paying attention. And it wasn't that they was paying attention. It's just that it wasn't given to them in a way that was able for them to digest it. So I said, you know, when I do music, I want to take what Rakim does and take what Kane does and take what G-Rap does and put it into one thing. You know what I'm saying? I want to have all these elements, or Nas does. I want to put all of this elements into one thing and be able to be relatable to the average person that's actually going through, who actually needs to hear the message. And being in the streets, I knew that a lot of the street dudes, I knew, you know, the vocabulary and the lingo that would grab them, but I also knew that how to get the message to make them pay attention.
Yeah, when we was you know, we first started fucking with KRS, we do the demo, we get the deal. It's time to do the album. We had this song called "The Blunt Is on Fire." In the song, I was the weed. So metaphorically, all my metaphors was relative to weed. Tuffy was the blunt. So splitting the blunt down to like that's his whole metaphor for his whole rhyme. And then the third verse, what happens when you smoke it? So all the metaphors we going back and forth. I forget how this shit go, but anyway, Chris was like, "Yeah, man, y'all too lyrical, man. Y'all gonna go over people's head. Yo, we need to do another weed song. Let me show you how to do this." So he goes, all right, we gotta rewrite your rhyme. You gotta rewrite all that shit. Like bring it down. Talk to people almost in baby talk, right? Wake up in the morning, got the yearning for herb, was halfway down my verse. When I go in the booth to spit it, and I get to that part, he got, yo, nigga, you bugging. You need to start your verse like that. Now, mind you, I wrote my rhyme on some, I'm purposely trying to be corny, thinking that he gonna be like, "Are you fucking around? Get out the booth. Stop fucking around." Right? He like, "Yo, that's that shit right there." So the whole concept he caught from Scott LaRock, which is how Criminal Minded got made, was Chris was super lyrical, super knowledge reigns supreme. He's in the library all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Scott's like, "Yo, you got to bring it down and talk to people." That's how Criminal Minded got made. A lot of what was supposed to be on the second album, by Any Means Necessary. A lot of that stuff was supposed to be on Criminal Minded, but it was like, nah, we're gonna say that. So it's like you gotta go reach down to the people to bring them up.
Meet them where they at. That's right.
To bring them up. So let's talk about bringing the people up. Like you've been doing a lot of that work, you know, like after your incarceration, like you literally hit the ground running. So can you give us some of that history? Like what was the thing that made you say, I got to get right to the people, get in these streets and work with these people?
I think it was a culmination of different things. I think being incarcerated at 21 years old, you know, facing 7 to 14 years for a crime I didn't do, and watching a lot of these young boys coming in and out of the system, some coming with so much time that they still not home, you know, some coming in on a belief of glorifying and chasing a lifestyle and a mentality that, you know, that we were tricked into, you know, into believing that it was something to glorify. And so as I sat there and I watched these young boys coming in off the streets and seeing them come in, and some actually coming in 2 or 3 times before I was finished with 7-year bids, I realized that, you know, we had a responsibility, and a lot of the OGs would pull me to the side because I was always somebody who paid attention and listened and wanted to learn. So they would pull me to the side and be like, "Yo, you going home, man. You got a voice, you got a platform. You know, we holding you to a higher standard, man. You got a charge to go out there and try to make sure that these kids is not coming in here." Because a lot of us was tricked out of our freedom. We believed that, you know, the streets and this gangster mentality that was being, you know, shown to us was something. We glorified a lifestyle that really didn't mean anything, you know. So, and being in the streets, I had that same mentality at one time. So I was like, man, I have to utilize, I got to flip this voice. You know, a lot of these kids are looking up to me. I'm the hardest rapper, talking the most street, shoot 'em up, everything. And I'm like, I got to come out, and I still got to meet them where they are. I got to tell them the truth about what's going on, you know, and it's going to be harsh, but it's going to be real, you know, and it's going to deter them. It's going to deter them and make them realize that what we calling gangster and what we calling real is not really real. Real is when you actually have your freedom, when you're able to take care of your family, you know, when you give into the community instead of being the one who plagues the community and damaging the community. You know, gangsters when you can stop somebody from shooting somebody. You know, anybody can shoot somebody. When you got enough respect and honor, and people respect you enough that you can stop them from, you know, transgressing against each other, then that's when you will have true power. So that became my mind state, to come home, you know, and do something different and change the mind state of, you know, a lot of our young Black and brown boys in our communities.
You do a lot of work with the Justice League, New York City Justice League, Tamika Mallory, and everybody. So how did that connection happen? Like,
Well, I started working with the Justice League in I want to say about 2012. I met Tamika at a event that we did, a Christmas giveaway in Harlem, and from there we started. I was doing personal training, and from there I was doing personal training with her for a while. And at that point, she started listening to my music, and I had did a song for Trayvon. It was a spoken word piece called "What Do I Say to My Sons," and it was a video. And when she seen this video, she's like, "Yo, this video is powerful." And she had a relationship with Trayvon's mother, Sabrina Fulton, because she had been working with Reverend Al for years, and she was actually working with her during Trayvon's situation. And she's like, "Yo, Sabrina would love to hear this." And then she said, "Also, I think this voice right here, a lot of our young kids need." And I said, "Well, that's a lot of work that I want to do." Then she introduced me to Carmen Perez, who was running Harry Belafonte's organization, the Gathering for Justice. And from there, we would go to detention centers, and we would advocate with the young youth. One of my expertise was teaching them how to use music as an alternative to violence. Because that was something I did. Whenever I felt angry, I would put all that anger into a rap, instead of actually transgressing against somebody. So that was one of the things that I went to the detention centers and spoke to the kids about. And then in the interim of that is when when Eric Gardner was killed in New York City. And I remember that was the first rally I ever went to. It was hundreds of thousands of people. And I remember at that point, I said, "This is the work I want to do," And from there, Carmen had went on to form the Justice League. It was the birth child of the Gathering for Justice, and we began to do, immediate response work to police brutality and, child incarceration and to end mass incarceration. And then, and that's how we did with the Justice League, and we just continued on. And now we have an organization. Myself, Tamika Mallory, Linda Sarsour, and attorney Angelo Pinto. We have this organization called Until Freedom, in which is another extension of the work we're doing, but we just wanted it to pretty much engulf what the culture represents. I never really seen an organization or a civil rights organization that was welcoming of our hip hop culture and what it is now. I felt a lot of the organizations, though, are great and have done great work, they didn't fit me. There wasn't a space for somebody like me who was from the hip hop culture, who still was outside and still wanted to dress like the culture and still wanted to enjoy everything of the culture. But I wanted to fight against injustices in our community. So when I started to do the work and started Until Freedom, that was the main mind state. Like, we wanted you to know that you can come as you are. You don't have to fit a certain mold. You don't have to have a certain background or a certain shiny look. We just want people who are genuinely believe in freedom and justice and equality.
Yeah, that's real. That's real. Like, just following the work, bro. Like I'm so proud because the sacrifice that you've made, that everyone that you're affiliated with in terms of the protest demonstrations, letting your voice be heard at different points in time. I think the Supreme Court hearings, just the different things that you guys have done is a huge sacrifice that I really don't think people understand or give you credit for. So, I don't know how, I don't want to get too personal, but describe some of the sacrifice, like the experience of getting locked up for speaking truth to power.
I mean, it's always a sacrifice. I believe that if we look throughout history, we've never gotten anything without sacrifice, without losing something, without being willing to lose everything for that. So there's always a sacrifice every time you go out and you face against a system that is structured around keeping you marginalized. That it capitalizes off of the victimization and the catalyzation of Black bodies, you know, and when you face that system head on every time, there's a possibility that you might not make it home. You know, you might not make it home alive. And a lot of, you know, activists and other brothers and sisters have not made it home or are incarcerated because they decided to fight for equity and equality. So, you know, there's a huge sacrifice, man. It's always the sacrifice that your family makes. You know, when you decide to go outside, when you're the breadwinner and you're the head of your household, you know, and you go outside and you're speaking truth to power and you're going up against a system that doesn't favor you and does not value Black life every day. You know, there's always the fear that your family has to have of you not coming home and the sacrifices away from them. So it's so many different sacrifices. You know, I believe I'm doing God's work. I believe that this is my calling, you know, and I found my purpose. So for me, it's as natural as breathing air.
Yeah.
You know, because I always feel that whenever I'm doing something, when I'm on the right side of justice, whatever comes with that, you know, it's nothing but God's plan, you know, and I always feel protected. And the day that I'm not, you know, it's also His will. So it's gonna be what it's gonna be.
Yeah. Now, also like watching you guys travel the country and do what you do, right? Something that is real key. The word organization.
Mm-hmm.
The level of organization that you guys exhibit is next level. And, you know, I would really encourage our viewership, folks out there in the world who are paying attention to your life's work, you know, like, you know, the level of organization and that we can all replicate. We could take note and do the knowledge, and we need to replicate and join arms with the work that you guys have been doing, because, you know, it's really powerful. So with that said, I would like for you to, you know, talk to hip hop in terms of being more active in community affairs, you know, no matter what space the rapper or hip hopper may come from.
Well, I think it's imperative, man. I think hip hop is the voice of the people, you know, and you have to be intentional about speaking on behalf of injustices that are plaguing us. You know, when you have he who is given great power, you know, has to do something with that power, man. You know, to whom much is given, much is asked. And to say that well, I'm just this. No, you are a voice. You know, I spoke to the minister Farrakhan, and he once told me that, you know, he said, I need you as an artist to do what you do. Don't do what I do. You know, with one rap, you're able to reach millions of people at a time, man. You are able to, these artists and a lot of these mainstream hip hop artists, they're able, to capture the ears of so many people at one time. So he said, I don't ask you to say something about what's going on with our people all the time, but slip it in there every now and then. You know, put a little candy in the medicine, man. A little medicine inside the candy. So,
Yep.
you know what I'm saying? So that they get a little bit out of it, you know. So
that's right.
You know, so for me, I think a lot more artists are starting to see it, man, especially since, you know, this George Floyd and Breonna Taylor. There are a lot of artists that I've connected with that are 100% all for utilizing their voices and their platforms, you know, to move forward, to escalate and highlight all of the injustices and struggles that our people are dealing with. So I think it's slowly becoming an awakening. I think we're getting to a place where we realize that we have to do something different, because the same old thing is not going to work anymore. You know, the old practices are gone, you know, and it's time for us to utilize our voices and not just say, you know, there's no such thing as just an artist anymore. You know, artists are the gatekeepers of truth, as Harry Belafonte say. You know, and those closest to the problem have to be the solution. So when you're an artist and you're able to report live from our communities about what's going on in our communities, then there is an expectation and a responsibility for you to accurately talk about those struggles and highlight the voices of those who need to be heard to make the change.
Yeah. So there's a movie out right now, Judas and the Black Messiah.
Mm-hmm.
before I tell you how I felt about it, how did you feel about the movie?
I have to watch it again. I watched it like literally. I haven't watched it since it came back out, but I got a sneak preview from my sister Linda Sarsour, one of our co-founders at Until Freedom. They gave her the early copy because they wanted her to watch and do commentary on it, and we were watching it. And what I remember that it was a lot going on. You know, it was a lot. It was powerful to me. I believed it was powerful. I believe that you know, it's unfortunate how they utilize us, you know, and they always utilize us in situations to go against us. They've always destroyed us from the inside, you know, and that even happens in today's movements. In today's movements, they have, you know, the infiltrators and, you know, and they come in with certain things. But I want to watch it one more time before I give a full synopsis of it, because I actually fell asleep like toward the end, like a little parts. I was just like going through because we had just finished doing the rally. We was in Kentucky, and we was just doing so much different things. So I didn't really get a full synopsis of it, but I definitely want to watch it again. But I'm interested to hear your take.
So I went into it with the screw face, like I ain't want to like it, you know. And when it started, you know, with the whole J. Edgar Hoover thing with the speech, you know, I know that's just Hollywood trying to put together a story because that speech never happened. I know that the term, you know, Black Messiah predates Fred Hampton. So that's just, you know, that's Hollywood being Hollywood. So, you know, I'm like, okay. But about 10, 15 minutes in, I was stuck. And I was like, yo, this is good. This is good. And,
you know, I like the director. He takes his time. Whenever he gives us a movie, it's something that makes us like, I think, you know, he really takes his time with the movies, and he you know, he intakes the information, he looks at it, he makes it entertaining, he adds entertainment to it, because that's what, you know, movies are.
It's
but
Hollywood.
usually it has a real theme, something that we can connect to.
Right. So there was parts in it that to me was a little shaky. They could have done without, but overall I thought the acting was really, really good. The fact that Daniel what's how you pronounce his last name? The play Fred. Even though he's like closer to 30, everybody's like, oh, he don't look 21. I'm like, but you know, you gotta, you know, it's Hollywood. You gotta fill it in. He did a great job acting. He delivered the role tight. The sister in Jerry, she was dope. She was real dope. I really, really liked her part. I thought she killed it. And then a lot of the historical points of fact they address. But then I interviewed my big brother, Daruba bin Wahad. And I don't know if you're familiar with the brother, but former Black Panther, co-founder of the BLA. You know, he was the field secretary for the New York chapter of the Black Panther Party during his time. Remember the Panther 21 with Afeni Shakur and everybody else. So he has a very personal connection to it. And for him, he can't even watch it because it's the idea that the story is told from the point of view of the snitch. Like in his point of view, like from his perspective, and I 100% agree. It's a shame that we even know this man's name. His reply to me, he said, do you know the name of the person that snitched on Nat Turner?
Wow.
It's like, no. Exactly. Like, you're not even supposed to know his name, let alone tell the story from his perspective.
His viewpoint. Yeah, that's crazy.
Right. So that's crazy. And he, you know, he kind of, I exactly see where he's coming from, you know, but in Hollywood world, I thought it was a really good movie. And I'm glad it was made so that we could have the discussion of the snitch and what that really means. Because there's a lot of that going around right now.
Yeah, I call it coward culture.
Expound.
You know, I believe that there's an embracing of the coward, of the snitch, of the stool pigeon. You know, a lot of people they get mad at me because they're like, yo, you're not supposed to be talking about the street term and, street term snitching. That's street codes. And it's like, no, it's not a street code. It's a integrity. It's about manhood. It's about having accountability for your own actions. And since when you're too weak or scared to be held accountable for your own actions, you want to give somebody else up so they can be held accountable for theirs. Mm-hmm. There's nothing, there's no humaneness about it. It's just an act of weakness. And, and we glorify that today in today's culture. We amplify the voices of the rat. We give them platforms. We want to hear their life story. We want to know why they told. We want to know what makes them tick. There's this fascination. There is actually a glorification of the weak. So I call it coward culture.
Man, to elaborate on the culture. So I just got a phone call from the homie Davey D. Are you familiar with Davey D, the journalist, the hip hop journalist from the Bay Area?
No, I don't know.
DJ Davey D, great brother. So I interviewed him a month ago, and we had a conversation, right, discussing how. All right, it starts with in the late 1800s there was a genre of music called Coon music. Are you familiar with that?
No, I never heard that.
Yeah, so Coon music was born out of slavery, really. White folks putting on shows, mimicking black people, the stereotypes, all that shit. The minstrel shows come out of that. Black, the whole blackface thing. And in the music charts, there was a category of music where these white artists would make songs like black folks would talk, mimicking us. There's a song called "Niggas Love Watermelon," ha ha ha. That's the ice cream truck jingle. That was a record that came out on CBS. Niggas love watermelon, ha ha ha. It's a whole genre of music. Starts with white people mimicking black people, but as time goes on, they needed real niggas to do it, and that's the whole like the Sambo, all that shit. Steppin' Fetchin', all that shit is born out of what was Coon music. You can look it up, the Coon music, and you'll see it's a genre on the Billboard charts and the whole 9 yards. All right. So our conversation progresses, and we get to the civil rights era, and then Martin Luther King in 1967 addressed this national body of broadcasters, radio jocks, promoters, the whole shit. And he thanked them for their involvement in the civil rights movement, because without them, the movement couldn't have never got off the ground. That was the network in the community. If you want to reach these kids, where are they at? They at the record shop. So you got to know who the disc jockey is at the record. That's a network, a connection of black people out. Has nothing to do with white folks are not involved in this at all. Right. Mm-hmm. The power of our unity to drive a message created the civil rights, or made the civil rights movement successful. Martin Luther King thanked them. Fast forward to 71, 72, the same body is like, you know what? We need to really utilize our power and make a move. The mafia got sent at them, and concurrently at the same time, maybe coincidentally, Clive Davis at CBS commissioned the Harvard Music Study on music. So most music in America at the time was independent. So a lot of black independent record labels existed. Motown, Wastax, Philly International, all these huge music hubs pumping out all this music. The independents sold more music than the majors. The majors needed to break the independent stronghold on music. They put together the Harvard Music Study to wrestle music away from black people, to control the profit and control the message. All right. The first black music department is at Columbia with Philly International, Michael Jackson. That set the stage for the black music department. Black people running it, white people own it. Move down the line, you change black to urban. Now anybody could do it, because it's not black no more. It's urban, and white people still control it. And there's some other points of, you got to peep the conversation that he and I had. But this whole idea of we're back to Coon music, really.
I hear you.
We're back to Coon music. Actually, it never left, on another note. But being able to see the broad strokes throughout history, I guess it helps direct purpose. Speak to purpose.
Well, I think for me, purpose is your calling. Just understanding why you're doing something. When I look at my purpose, I always thought my purpose was rapping when I was young. So I love rap. Rap is my thing. I'm rap. First was basketball, then it was rap. And then as I started to move and grow and understand that, my purpose was different. That was my passion, and then I realized what I was doing was aligning my purpose with my passion and saying the culmination of both of those things is what is going to get me into a different space, a different realm. A lot of our artists are activists by nature. They are leaders and they do have voices. They just don't gravitate to it. They don't utilize them in such a manner. And I said to myself, that's the key to it. The language of the people is hip hop. So if I'm talking to them, and the strongest thing we have in the world is words. If you look throughout history, if you just look at anything, the most powerful people in history had words. They weren't the strongest people. They didn't have the most money. They didn't have the most weapons. They were able to utilize their words. Words have moved mountains, controlled countries, done anything that you name was controlled by words. So when you start to master words and master communication, then you become powerful. So I began to understand my purpose was to utilize my words, and culminate those with my actions and my passion to be able to make change, to be able to inspire people, to be able to motivate people, to be able to change the mind state of a lot of our people, and to push us to the next level. So if I'm able to influence change in our young kids and even our grown people, change their minds. A lot of times I get a lot of DMs from a lot of teenagers saying, just listening to me made them decide to change what they were doing. They didn't know how before. They wanted to. They felt like their moral compass wasn't aligned with the negativity and the glorification of just stupidity. Like, we actually glorify stupidity. Like, it doesn't even make sense. Like, people tell you if you don't do something that is so stupid that you ain't real. You know what I'm saying? Like, yo, you got to go out there and risk your life and your freedom if you want to be real. It's like, what? Like, I want you to just jump in front of the bus. I want you to go out there and shoot somebody in broad day. You know what I'm saying? Jump in front of the bus, shoot somebody in broad day, and risk the whole freedom so you can show people how tough
how tough you are. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Now, nobody care about none of that. People like, yo, I don't want to go to jail. I ain't trying to die. Nah. If you talking about going to jail or actually living, you soft. You know what I'm saying? What you talking about? You trying not to go to jail or you trying to live? You crazy, man. Nobody care about that when it's on. When it's on, man, you just die just for nothing. It got stupidity. For me to give my life, when I give my life for this movement, it's because it's for a greater good. I know when I give my life and whatever it is, it's going to transcend and it's going to motivate somebody else to make more moves to get us closer to the beloved community. So every time I risk my life, that is what I know. But when you tell somebody to risk their life because somebody said something about them, or somebody called you soft, or called you a name, or tweeted something about you on Instagram, and people glorify that, and you actually see that mindset become prevalent, it's just dangerous, man. So I think my purpose is always to combat that mentality, to combat those people who would rather poison the minds of our young kids than actually to flourish it.
That reminds me of a quote: "The clean glass of water and the dirty glass of water." Now, you don't have to shame the dirty glass of water. You can just provide the clean one. That's from the movie Malcolm X. That's one of the, I guess, one of the lessons Elijah Muhammad bestowed upon Malcolm. So the story goes. Providing the clean glass of water.
Yep.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm on some other shit right now. But today was a great celebration, a great day today, a great day today. I listen to Fred the Godson every day. We still strive for perfection. Shout out to New York. I like your direction. Yo, talk about Fred the Godson and what he means to hip hop culture, man. Please. Rest in peace, Fred the Godson.
R.I.P. to Fred, man. Fred was a really good friend of mine, man. He was somebody that I call a friend, that I called a colleague, and was hands down one of the best lyricists I've ever heard. Metaphorically, you know, there was not too many people that I've ever heard on the level of Fred. You know, and he was one of the funniest people that you ever met, man. And what he meant to hip hop, you know, it's crazy the impact he had on hip hop, and he never reached his pinnacle. He wasn't even close to where he should have been, but people knew that he should have been there. Your favorite artist, your favorite rapper, I don't care how famous they was, they heard a Fred verse and was like, yo, did you hear what he said? You know, I remember Jay-Z had heard Fred, and this one, they had two ways. He threw his two-way. He threw it like, did you hear what this boy just said, man? Like, I remember watching Busta Rhymes, listening to Fred say, you know, I'm so ahead of my time, I'm babysitting my mother. Like, you don't just say stuff like that. And Busta just looked at him and stopped the music like, yo, did you hear what he just said?
I'm so ahead of my time, I'm babysitting my mother.
Like, you just don't, those are bars, and he has so many of those, man. You know, me and Fred did so much music together. I was blessed to be in the studio with him and be around him in his presence and just be a friend to him, man, and just watch him create. You know, we was actually creating a mixtape together called, it was me, him, and my man Goods. It was called The Good, The Bad, and The Ugly. It was going to be like a Western theme. You know what I'm saying? It was the Bronx. We're going to have the Bronx Most Wanted at the top, and we was going to have us there, you know. And it was just dope, man. And we did about 7 or 8 songs, but we never completed it. But, you know, hopefully I might want to just release that just for the love of the art. But today, you know, but just today, you know, having a street named after Fred in the Bronx on the street that he was raised on the corner of the block on the corner of the building that he grew up in, was nothing short of incredible, man. Just seeing all the people, seeing other Bronx legends. Fat Joe was out there, you know, Sway came out there, Ruben Diaz was there, you know, so many different people was out there just to show homage to Fred. And it was a lot of the community was out there, man. It was, and this today was his birthday, so it was feeling that they do this on the day that he was born.
Yes, that's dope. Yeah, man. That's a beautiful thing that it happened, but I'm so sad that without Fred the Godson. My cousin Aubrey was doing a lot of work with him and the Heatmakers, and so he was giving me, you know, a little listen here and there, and I'm just like, yo. And then when the COVID thing happened, to watch it in front, like we saw it happen, and that's sad. That's really sad. And then, you know, all of last year was like such a turning point in life and culture. 2020, you know, you were very active. Your imprint is on 2020 heavy. Talk about 2020. What does 2020 mean for you?
2020 was the year of action for me, man. You know, I think during the pandemic, a lot of us were in the house, you know, forced to be in the house, forced to sit down, weren't able to move as we might have wanted to, you know, but unfortunately for me, you know, the job that I've taken on, my purpose, didn't allow me to just stay in the house during the pandemic. So while most people were, you know, social distancing and staying in place, you know, we had to hit the streets and fight against police, because police brutality didn't stop during the pandemic. So for me, it was a year of action. You know, went to ended up going to Kentucky for Breonna Taylor during Memorial Day, and to do memorial for her because she was an essential worker, and we wanted to celebrate and bring light to what happened to her at the same time. And as we were there with her, George Floyd got killed, and we ended up driving 12 hours from Kentucky to Minneapolis, and we're there, the first 4 to 5 days of, the riots that they had and the protesting and watch the police shoot tear gas and rubber bullets, actually got tear gassed, in the thick of that. And then to go back from there, to go back to Kentucky and end up protesting there. So 2020 was a lot, it was a lot of trauma. It was also a lot of action. It was a lot of people standing up, utilizing their voices, saying the world started to get a glimpse of what racism was and what we were actually talking about. There was no longer an opportunity for you to deny racism existed. We had a president that was saying that racism was a myth and there was no need to talk about that. And when you watch what happened to George Floyd, the myth was dispelled. And I think it was an awakening. It was a time for action and time for an awakening. And I think, it put perspective into what we've been dealing with in marginalized communities way before 2020.
Dump Trump, you hopped on the joint, I said early, it was like not even a question. And I salute you for that. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. And we see the aftermath of Clown Boy.
Mm-hmm.
It definitely, like, I never fucked with Trump at all, and I was always disappointed when I saw rappers and other entertainers embrace him and kind of give him energy. After Central Park 5 for me, it was a done deal. That's like 1988, 89 is when I got conscious.
Mm-hmm.
And it was the music, the KRS-Ones, the BDPs, the Public Enemies, the X-Clan. I was a real big X-Clan fan, and also being in the culture was about organizing for real, studying for real, doing something for the community for real. So for everything from, going to visit political prisoners, care packages to political prisoners, organizing. I was an educator, of course, a teacher. Just doing all that to see the Central Park 5. It was like I was woke already. I wasn't fucking with this character. And to see him go through the 90s and the 2000s and kind of bob and weave through the whack juice, for me, was like, it was disgusting. When it was time to do the song, it was like, we got to get this dude. Now, I got caught up in the conspiracy theory world during that time, right? And Occupy Wall Street happened. I was able to kind of, communicate with a lot of what would be that right-wing Trump. What do you call them? The Proud Boys, all of those jokers. I got an opportunity to just talk to them, but from like the deep state, Illuminati, and then you see like, nah, these jokers is really racist. Alex Jones, this dude is a racist,
mm-hmm.
right? But the whole conspiracy theory cloud prevented me from seeing that initially, right? So Obama gets in, and he's pushing hard for, of course, the ACA, Obamacare. And I don't want to get it. I'm running around with no insurance. God, my wife is like, what are you doing? You need insurance. Sign up for the joint. They forced me to sign up. I'm fighting it, thinking they're going to put a chip in me. No, I'm not trying to get it. That's what they're going to set up. They're going to give you a chip. So I sign up. 3 months after I sign up, I break my left hand at a bartender event on 136 in Lenox, waiting for Giant and Jada to get there. I'm playing basketball, fall backwards on my hand, break my scaphoid, ended up having to get 3 surgeries on the scaphoid. I got a plate put in here, needles in here. No Obamacare. I'm walking around with the Gimpy right now. So that taught me something. The conspiracy theory will talk you out of your own empowerment.
That's a fact.
Conspiracy theory will have you siding with people who really don't have your best interest. They really want to disconnect you from your power. And then you're on an island. You're in Texas this winter. You know what I mean? So it was an ill lesson for me. You know, Donald Trump. What's Donald Trump for you?
Donald Trump was the biggest co-organizer that I've ever experienced. You know, Donald Trump gave a lot of us a rude awakening. You know, I call him a co-organizer because every time he did something, it made it easier for us to organize our people and galvanize our people. You know, I told people when he first got elected, I said, you know, unfortunately, this is what we needed. We needed to actually see racism up close and personal. There was no more behind. There was no, you know, subliminal. There was no, you know, trying to brush it by and act like it wasn't there. This was the racist in chief, you know, and he showed you exactly what America was built on. It was built on racism and capitalism. And he ran a campaign on the premise that he was going to make sure that white people got to control their country again. You know, he realized that they were tired of seeing blacks move into spaces and tired of seeing things become comfortable and equity for black people and watching, you know, poor white people get poorer and get, you know, and move into spaces and rich people get poor. No, he said, you know, when he said make America great again, the code word was, I'm going to make sure that whites are back in superior positions again. You know, and he did everything he could. He even pandered to some blacks to convince them. He would give you a little bit, you know, to convince you that, yeah, I'm not that bad. Look, I'll give you a couple dollars. I'm just going to make sure I give us a couple billions and trillions. You can have a couple hundreds and $1,000s. I'm going to give you a stimulus. I'm going to give you all these things, you know. He utilized the system, you know, the same way that he utilized TV and you know, reality TV. And he stood firm in his conviction. And that's one thing I say, you know, his fan base and the base that he went there to represent, he represented. He wasn't trying to coexist. He wasn't trying, you know, to navigate through everybody else. He made sure that his base understood that everything he did was to empower them, you know, and I hope as people, we take that same approach, man. We no longer have to try to go along to get along approach. You know, when we gain power, we have to make sure that we are able to distribute as much of it to our people who have never had power as possible. You know, we are make sure that we are empowering and putting our people in positions to be able to not only just to live, but to actually survive.
Yeah, that's real. That's real. You know, something that was very empowering, and it's the beauty of it. Looking at what happened on January 6th, compared to what happened at the Million Man March. Like, it's, if we reflect on the Million Man March and over 1 million black men going to DC and not rioting, like no issues, like, and then you look at what happened on January 6th. Like, it's really a testament to our power and strength, considering what we've been through, that we didn't go to DC and just flip out. You know, to talk to, you know, power and strength within black people and how we see that all the time.
Well, I mean, we've exhibited exemplary power and just restraint. You know, when we look through our history, even though they try to paint us as these most violent people, when you look throughout our history, we've never been violent people. You know, whenever there's violence within our community, even when we say senseless violence, it's senseless violence that was taught to us, right? It's senseless violence in the sense that we have blocks and communities in which we've created, you know, we've created a economy in our communities, right? And we believe that in order to survive, we have to protect that community to make sure that nobody else is eating those communities. The same thing, the same strategy that America taught us when they created armies, when they run into different territories, or they protect their territories with their armies, and when someone violates those territories, they go and they shoot. You know, a lot of the same principles apply in the communities. A lot of our kids in our communities would be deemed as soldiers. You know, when they shooting and they fighting against what they quote unquote ops, it's the same thing that a soldier gets a Purple Heart for. You know, they believe that they fighting over their community and fighting to save and protect their family and their gang and their team the same way. So it's the same exact principles. It's just that one principle is legal and the other one is deemed illegal because we figured out how to create our own economy in our communities. You know, and I say that to say every time I look at our communities, you know, and I look at how we're forced to continue to govern our communities, and how when we look at their communities, when we look at the insurrection, and you look at what they're fighting for, they're fighting because they had a tantrum. They're willing to kill people because they had a tantrum, because America was starting to, you know, the change of powers, the changing of the guard. You know, they're watching Black people get empowered. They were taught, white America was taught that they will always be in control. That was the American dream. That's what they were taught. And they were fighting because they said, America lied to me. The president told us that we're supposed to do this. No, the Black people in Atlanta ain't supposed to override our votes. Black people in Philly not supposed to override our votes. We wanted Trump in. There's no way that Black people get to dictate what goes on in this country. You know, so when we look at the power of that, shows our power. It shows when we decide to galvanize our power and unite what we can do. But it also shows our power when we utilize restraint, when we should and have every reason to be out there shooting and killing, you know, for what has been done to our community. But we don't. We come together in power and unity, you know, and we protect our own. We have yet to transgress against those who even transgressed against us.
Yeah, that's real. You mentioned Georgia, right? And Stacey Abrams, and you know what Black women, in particularly, but Black people across the board, you know, we saved America. We saved America.
Mm-hmm.
Joe Biden doesn't get the nomination if Black people don't. James Clyburn doesn't say this is who we rocking with. That doesn't happen. And you know, I'm a Bernie Sanders guy. You know,
me too.
Yeah, I'm an independent. You know, I'll vote Democrat because you know that's why people are at. But I like Bernie Sanders politics. But when Clyburn endorsed Biden, you know, I gotta rock that. If that's where we going, that's where we going. That's what Black people. That's what Black people saying we going now. When I say that, I'm saying that to say we have Black elected officials, right? We say who's Black leadership? Well, Black leadership are Black elected officials because they're in the seats of government. They're in the seats of power, right? To address whatever government, right? We vote these people in with mayor, city council, governorship, Congress, Senate. We have a plethora of very influential to powerful Black representatives in Congress, especially, but in the Senate with Cory Booker, Kamala Harris is now the VP. You know, there's a politic that exists now that had no chance of existing in the late 90s, early 90s. There's a progressive voice, a progressive slant, I don't even like to use the word radical because it's really just what should be normal is we take care of people, we invest in people, we take care of women, we invest in women, we take care of, you know, Americans. That shouldn't be a radical idea, but there's a bunch of folks who represent our brand of politics today. And I like that. How do we access that more so we could really access the chains of power?
I think for me, you know, that's what we wanted to do. Like when we started this election, And like you said, Clyburn said this, and this is what we had. This was our candidate. A lot of people didn't never believe in the candidate. A lot of people just don't believe in the system, and telling them that an old 70-plus-year-old white man is going to change something for Black America, it's not really realistic. And we're starting to realize that now, even in this times, a lot of things that we want done or believe should be done, he's adamant against it and saying, no, we're going to do it this way. So I think in understanding how he got to office, understanding how we galvanize is being intentional, not voting for candidates, but actually creating candidates and putting them in place. I think that's what we need to do. We need to format all of our resources around certain candidates, right? That embody what it is that we the people actually want. Right? Not just saying, yo, this is the best person that can win. No, we're going to take all of our resources and we're building our candidates up. We're going to take candidates that have all of the things that we want, that represent us properly, who are not going in to try to sell us out or try to give us a little bit. No, those who are going in there with the complete progressive mind state that Black America has been neglected for way too long. And we're going in there to make direct and intentional change in these communities. We're going in there not to lift every tides, and if I give tax cuts to everybody, by osmosis, that's not a reality. It's never worked for Black people. We need intentional legislation that says, hey, Black America gets this. Black America gets this. They are intentional things so that we start to even the tides, right? So I think we have to be intentional about putting those people. There are a lot of Black faces. We have Tim Scott and people like that who are Black that don't have our best interest in hand. They utilize these token Blacks to try to appease you and say, well, I'm a Black man too. I understand. I want to make sure that we get minimum wage. I'm fighting for minimum wage, but I'm not going to Trump. I'm not going to go against Trump. Even though I watched what he did, I can't vote against him, man. I can't vote for defund the police. Don't really make sense, man. We need to give more money to the police. Why would we do that? We taking all the money out of the communities, but we want to give more money to the police. So we have to have real, not politicians, but people that we have galvanized and we believe totally in, not that we just voting for the lesser of two evils, but people that we totally believe in that we put in office.
Yeah. So Yulon Wilson, big shout out to everybody in the building. We got a lot of comments going through. But Yulon said we have to pay attention on the local levels and push the right candidate from the start. Many know nothing about our representatives. So there's the local level, right? But also there's the correlation to the New Deal policies of FDR, right? Which was a direct relief to American communities after World War II, coming out of the Depression. In order to uplift America, they needed investment. So these programs, the New Deal programs, is what built the suburbs. You got the GI Bill, which if you serve X amount of you get access to damn near free college education. A lot of these programs specifically excluded African Americans, right? These programs created the suburbs and at the same time created the ghettos that we see, right? So like Martin Luther King said, we never got our check, because he was referring to the check that white people got in the 40s and the 50s. That check that created what they call the happy days in the 50s was an investment by the federal government into local communities, into job programs, into infrastructure, into bringing America back to prominence, right? They were invested in, but Black people were excluded, even though our tax dollars were going into it as well. So we definitely need that federal, direct injection of capital in Black America specifically. We definitely need that. But then there's the responsibility for us to be active. A lot of times, we miss the boat, we miss the opportunity, you know, there are things that we should be doing, but for whatever reasons we get distracted and we don't pick up on it. You know, I don't know if you want to respond to that.
Yeah, I think, you know, a lot, like you said, local is definitely the way to go. You know, those are things that directly impact your community. You know, and those should be people who are directly from your community, that have been homegrown, who know exactly what's going on in community, who knows the ills, who knows the people, who is familiar with the community. And that's where you get the real change that infuses straight into the communities. And when we put enough of those people in office that directly have the community's best interests at hand, then it affects the federal levels and the federal legislation, because those are the people who are they're dealing with every day. You know, then at that point we start putting those local officials into federal positions. You know, and then we start having those conversations about, yes, infusing money back into Black communities, because like you said, Dr. King said, when they came here, there was a willingness to give the peasants, you know, the European peasants who came here with nothing, money and land and everything, but they never gave us anything. That's know, so when they say lift yourself up by your own bootstraps, he said, you know, it's sure, I believe we should work hard and do everything, but it's a cruel joke to tell a bootless man to lift himself up by his bootstraps. So, you know, we've been bootless for way too long. Yeah. You know, and at some point you have to try to figure out when we're going to get these people some boots so they can start putting themselves up by the bootstraps. And I think right now we having these conversations about reparations, you know, and there's a whole study going on about what it looks like and how it should be distributed amongst the community. But it's definitely something that is required, man. It is a contract that America made with Black America that they never fulfilled. You know, there was a promise in a contract that was never fulfilled, you know, and America has fulfilled its promises with everybody else except Black people.
That's right. That's right. So look, I know it's getting late, you know, so I'm not really trying to, you know, hold you too much longer, but I need to know, what are you working on right now? Like what can we expect from you right now?
Right now, shout out to my brother Trey the Truth, who's in Houston right now on the ground, feeding people, rescuing people, giving people gas, you name it. You know, my brother Trey is like the hometown hero, like for real.
Yeah,
like he's like the mayor of Houston.
He is.
And he was on the ground with me in Kentucky fighting for Breonna Taylor. And while we were on the ground, we created an album. You know, we did a 14-track album in 2 days, literally, no exaggeration, that we recorded in 2 days. And it's called If You're Scared, Stay Inside. And it should be dropping next week. You know, so that's coming immediately. We just dropped a new video yesterday called I Gotta Win. The first video we dropped was called You Know How I'm Coming. You know, the project is a dope project. We got features. We got Black Thought on the album. We got Big Crit on the album. We got Jim Jones on the album. We got, who else we got? There's a few more other people, man, that are on the album. It's just a dope body of work, you know, something. And it's so dope because we just was sitting, we was working, and we was like, yeah, we need to put some music together, man. And he called his engineer in, brought him to the crib, and had some beats. And while we would be on a rally or driving to a rally, he'll send me a beat, or I'll send him a beat. And driving in the car, I'm sitting there writing the verse. I get to the studio, we laying 3 and 4 verses, you know, every 2 hours, and then we just came up with this work. So, you know, I'm proud of it. I love it. It represents us, who we are to the core. You know, it's still rugged, but it's definitely has conscious substance and real substance that when you hear it, you know, it's pure and authentic, man.
Yeah. Can I share something with you?
Yes, King.
If pimping ain't easy, what the fuck is revolution? Rappers be spitting straight noise pollution. Here's a clean glass of water. I'll show you how to eat to live. What goes around comes. Let me show you how to give. That's something that you hear when the 9 is at your rib. In the street, tuck your jewels. Thugs drew like baby bibs. I try to stay mindful, write something for the kids, talk it like I walk it, rap it how I live. I came up blue collar, strive to be a scholar, but I couldn't eat the love. I nearly starved without the dollar. The pressure and the stress is enough to make you holler when the landlord's at your doorstep and the devil's on your collar. They call me a slacker because I won't sell crack for the cracker. I call women queens and I love to bury blacker. Some chicks get it twisted. They'd rather be called bitches with their ass in the air like everybody's supposed to kiss it. It's a simple lesson. You get what you deserve. Is life a bitch or just a pimp with a perm? Seeing mommy tricked out made a little heartburn, but it's something she'll forget when it's time to take her turn. When will the children learn it's much better to earn? But when my niggas put in work, they like to make the metal burn. End up in the system, it's all systematic. Manchurian candidates, waving automatics. A product of a project launched in the 80s. Chemical warfare meant to kill the crack babies. Now as the world turns, is it just a story? Because keeping it real got my sons in purgatory. In between heaven and Hades, like earthquakes in Haiti, the fat lady clears her throat and then plays harp for the babies. They say I'm such a mystic, lyrics something mythic, but I make it so plain with details and specifics. I'm just gifted. I'm young and I'm black. Some represent the game. I represent the fact that God helps those who helps themselves. So when God helps you, he's really helping himself. Make every day have purpose is the science of life. Every breath's another roll. There's a science to dice. Learn from your mistakes. Try to learn from others. You get one roll at life. You won't get another. You have to learn the tricks because some niggas be on the gaff. On some funny business, but that shit won't make you laugh. I thought he had the bread. Was it wonder, not the weed? I'm wondering how it's coming back. Is my connect and getting beat?
Okay.
It's on the joint I got called Jewelry.
It's tough.
Yeah. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Yeah. So this joint is called Lyricism. You got a 16 for the God?
I work on it. I'm going ultra black. I want my culture back from all the bloodsuckers and vultures that sat and told us we were savages, soulless. That Kanye sold his soul and ain't even noticed that. Real, these niggas ain't even close to that. I ain't mad. Fake rappers is poster rap, but Akon, come on. How you gonna coast on that? You put a rat on the song when you had the ghost on that? Damn, where all the soldiers at? Death before dishonor. I took an oath for that. Let's take a toast to that. Our second notion that half these rappers is whack and ain't even close and ain't even poster rap. I am insulted that there's a notion that they can even fuck with me. How you promoting that when every bar is spit? There's a quote in that. Yeah, I'm gangster, but I am woke and fat. I am the dopest cat rapping. Most these cats capping. They want me to fall off. It can't happen. No, Matumbo. I give you all this shit. I'm like Gumbo. They be online. Me, I'm in the front though. I never run. I'm from the home of Punyo. You live by the gun, you're gonna die by the sword. Vengeance is mine, said the Lord. Every time that they record another black getting killed, I feel like we slaves back in the field. When Kaepernick kneeled, then got blackballed for trying to highlight all the blacks getting killed, then every black player went back to the field. Get it? That was some whack shit for real. So until we build, until we feel like, until we get real justice, we can't chill. We can't dribble no ball. We can't run in no field. Until the cops who killed Breonna is in the cell. Say her name, Breonna Taylor. I promised her mama I wouldn't fail her. They try to say because her ex-man is a dealer, that mean he was justified to kill her. That's insane. It's a shame. Say his name, Elijah McClain. I'm trying to refrain from going Nat Turner. With the world's obsessed with black murder, they killing us, we killing us. Divide and they conquer is weakening us. Yeah, I realize they deepening us, but we way stronger. I'm speaking to us. We got to get our shit together, bottom line. But don't tell me nothing about a black on black crime. Because the fact of the matter is this. It's a myth. It don't exist. Whites commit crime against whites at high rates, but they only highlight shit from our race. It's not my mistake, my brother. It's by design. You never heard shit about a white on white crime. Enough of that. Let's get back to black. All black Maybach, back to back. Let's get back to back. Back to this metal. Back to this skeleton. Back to this pretty belt. Skin covering my skeleton. You know, that's enough. That's enough.
Salute. Yo, respect.
Yo,
man, I really appreciate you carving out time in your schedule, man. It's crazy out there right now, and I know you could be with your family, you could be doing many other things, but you decided to, sit with me, and that's a blessing for MYSONNE platform. Always a pleasure, brother. Salute.
I appreciate you, man. Thanks for having me.
Yes, sir. Yo, this is Hakeem Green, Channel Live, Indirect, BDP all day, every day. All we do is spark, mad, ism. We out of here, y'all. Peace.
Peace.